Cable Channel 6 would like to invite you to the roundtable.
Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable. My name is Paul Dingeman. I host this program, which appears in Marine City and St. Clair on Channel 6 and Channel 902. Now also throughout northern Macomb and all of St. Clair County on Channel 12 and Channel 916 on Thursdays and Fridays. The show appears. We will have always some interesting guests. We have them today as my lips start to going together. We have the chairman of the board of the St. Clair County Board of Commissioners, Mr. Jeff Bohm. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having us.
The administrator and controller of St. Clair County, Mr. Phil Kauffman, and down on the end, Mr. Dan Casey from the world famous EDA. How are you doing, sir? Welcome to the set here. Jeff, we decided to get you in here to sit down for a few minutes and talk about a number of things that are happening in the county. It's an exciting time in St. Clair County, and you've got numbers of things on your plate.
Yeah, there's really going to be two topics that we're going to discuss today. One is the I-69 interlocal agreement that we're working on with Mr. Casey in his office, and then some of the possible waterfront redevelopment for Port Huron, kind of some long-term stuff that we're going to show today. But I think the I-69 corridor is going to be the first piece that we're going to discuss here, and really Dan can kind of give you the history of it, how it started, where we're at today, and where we're going with it.
Dan, first off, welcome to St. Clair County. You've been here now probably 9-10 months, probably?
Yeah, about 11 months.
About 11 months?
Sure.
And it's been, you've jumped right in. There's been lots of things happening. You've had 2 or 3 huge conferences. I know I've attended a couple of them.
Sure. And
you're on the job, and you're trying to make St. Clair County a better place. So bring us up to date with what's going on in that I-96 corridor. We saw some activity in all the municipalities on whether they were going to vote for it or vote against it. So,
sure. Well, I'd be happy to, and thanks for having us on the show today to give us an opportunity to talk about it. Just a little history on I-69 and really the next Michigan Development Corporation Act. It's called Act 425. It's a state law that was passed last year in December. The previous year in December 2010. And what it does is it allows the state of Michigan to create 5 logistics hubs in the state, 5 areas. And the first of those was created in the spring of 2011, and that was the Wayne Aerotropolis. So that's Wayne County, the Metro Airport, as well as Willow Run Airport, and that was the first one. And there's several communities working together in that initiative. So the state, last summer, they put out a notice of intent to the rest of the state of Michigan, and they asked regions to respond if they were interested in applying for one of the remaining designations. And at that time, we were thinking about that here in St. Clair County as to whether that made sense for us. And we thought that it did because of all the multimodal kind of assets. So that's airports, rail lines, expressways, and deep water ports that we have here. And so it seemed like it made some sense to us. But as we were going through that analysis, we received a call from Genesee County. They were interested in doing the same thing out at Flint Bishop International Airport, and that really got the ball rolling. And since then, we have undertaken a process dictated by law that involves 4 counties: Shiawassee, Genesee, Lapeer, and St. Clair. And to date, we've had 32 communities, including the counties, all sign what's called an interlocal agreement, which is basically an agreement that provides the structure for them to work together. And I guess I can't reiterate enough how unique this is in Michigan. Interlocal agreements have been around for a long time. You've got a lot of examples, including right here in St. Clair and St. Clair Township, where they've entered into interlocal agreements in the past. But we've never seen one in the history of the state with so many communities participating, so it's really unique.
That says something positive, I think. If that many people have looked at it and reviewed it, that they want to join in, they want to be part of it.
Yeah, and this initiative is all about creating jobs.
Okay.
and creating tax base, which is why so many communities are interested. Everyone knows that we're coming out of a recession. The economy's been tough. It's still tough for municipalities today and will be for a while. So municipalities are looking for ways to increase revenue without increasing taxes. And that's tough, but that's what they need to do really to continue to maintain the quality services that they offer to their residents. And so this initiative is all about that. It's about attracting companies that are in the logistics industry or manufacturing companies that use multimodal assets on a daily basis. At least 2 types to ship their goods to and from their plants. And so this initiative is really about trying to attract those companies and for them to create jobs as well as invest money in our communities.
One of the negatives I heard over the time was that, oh, it's going to take more taxes, it's going to steal things from us, it's going to give it all to Port Huron. Answer some of those questions for us.
Well, first of all, there's been an issue raised about local control.
Okay, that was, yeah.
Yeah, in other words, are these communities, when they agree to work together and they sign this agreement, are they giving up any of their local control? And the answer to that question is absolutely not.
Okay.
And I would say that for a couple of reasons. And the first is the intent of this program. It is an economic development program. And the purpose of it is to get communities to work together. Mm-hmm. So all of these communities that have come together, all 32 of them, are doing so willingly. They want to work together. They want to attract companies to come and locate in their communities and create jobs and create investment. So if you're a community that's primarily residential or rural, you're probably not going to want this program or be interested in it. But if you're a community that, like a Port Huron, a St. Clair, Marine City, Flint, one of those kind of communities, then this program offers a lot of benefit for you because you might have some existing industrial parks with some vacant buildings. This gives you another way that you can try to fill those buildings. And you probably have some light industrial land, property that's zoned, that's not developed yet, that might have infrastructure in place. And this program will help to market that land and make it more attractive for development. So what's really unique about it is that all these communities come together. They make some agreements in terms of how they want to market what's called the area, and they maintain control on things like incentives for projects that require them. They have the opportunity to say no if they don't want to give an incentive for a project. They can still give their own incentives. Another example. And there's other things that they agree upon together. But I think the bottom line about it is that it's a collaborative effort. The communities want to work together. They're interested in supporting each other. They're interested in bringing dollars to the table that allow them to do more than they could have done on their own.
How is it affecting the county area? I mean, you guys took a long look at it and then you voted on it.
Well, we've had multiple meetings to, I think, dispel some of the bad information that may have surrounded the project. We've had 3 different meetings. 2 of the meetings were roughly an hour long. Then we had a special workshop that we put on just to address these issues, and all the questions, all the answers came out. Mr. Casey, our Metropolitan Planning Director, our Corporate Counsel, really did a nice job of, the question and answer. And I think a lot of it really had to do with, eminent domain. They're going to take my property. They're going to do this. You're signing everything over to corporation, and just total nonsense in my mind, to be quite honest.
So in the eminent domain, I did hear that one too. So that there is no fear about that.
Yeah, they're not taking people's property. We're not building a toll highway across 69. We're not. So like I said, some of these things that came out of this, it just blows my mind, to be quite honest, how some of these things come up, because that's not the intent. One big issue that, and I don't think Dan touched on, there's 5 different areas in Michigan that have this opportunity. One is already taken up through the Airtropolis. One is for a region in the UP. So there's 3 other possible designations for the lower, the lower half of Michigan. And it's really important to get this type of an agreement in place, because it gives you some additional incentives with Renaissance zones and those types of things that the counties have the ability to offer. And I can tell you right now, we're in competition with a project that is looking at Airtropolis, and they're looking at somewhere here in St. Clair County that I can't mention, that if you don't have these types of tools in play, the ability to compete for some of these manufacturing jobs and some of these other industries, you're not even going to be in competition. So in my mind, we have to do everything possible to put ourselves in the best position to be able to attract these companies.
Didn't the governor and the Economic Development Authority in Lansing say they're not going to give tax breaks anymore? They're not going to give these incentives, but then they set these districts up and they're going to allow some?
No, that's not what they said.
That's not okay.
No, what they
Clear
said
it up
is,
for me.
Yeah, what they said is that they want to limit
okay.
the amount that they give. So what they've done is they've created a pool of $100 million annually that they can give out for projects, and they've split it so that about $50 million of it is primarily for urban and urban renewal projects, so brownfield, historic preservation, downtown projects.
Okay.
The other $50 million is really for your more traditional projects where you're trying to attract, corporate America to come into your
factory.
Yep, a factory, technology company, whatever the case may be.
Okay. One of the spin-offs, I think, of your I-69 corridor, you said, if I'm in a rural area, it won't affect me, but it might affect me in the city. But if you're looking at it as the way the state is looking at things of combining, maybe somebody, that new factory is going to live in that rural area. So sure. There are side benefits to it, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, in Genesee County, they had a couple of townships that signed up for the initiative, not because they wanted development, not because they had existing industrial parks, but strictly because they liked the fact that this initiative was all about creating jobs.
Good. Okay.
And they wanted to create jobs, and so they signed up just for that reason alone. So, it depends on what a community's goals are or what the county's goals are, but again, we think that this is a program that it adds another tool to our toolbox. There are a limited supply of these designations statewide. Jeff said that there are 3 left. Well, actually, there's 2 left. The government, or the Michigan Economic Development Corporation just granted another one a month ago, so in Lansing, so now we're down to 2 remaining. And it is competitive. There are other regions in the state that are trying to get those designations.
Has it been granted to you?
No. Yeah, we're going through the process.
Okay. And when do you think you'll hear?
Right now, we're slated to go in February, late February, to what's called the Michigan Strategic Fund Board for their action.
Okay. So there'll be other people competing for those last 2 slots, one of which we hope to get.
Well, there's people competing, or regions competing, but they have to get their applications in time.
Oh.
So we're at the point now where in a couple of weeks we expect to have our application submitted.
Good. So good. How soon after, and that's like who's going to win the Super Bowl, how soon after the paperwork gets done and it's in place, do you see any opportunities coming, or you probably don't even know, do you?
Well, that's the interesting thing about this. We started this process back in May. We have a couple of projects in the works in St. Clair County, and there are a couple in Genesee County that are underway right now. All are logistics-based projects. So we think that we're going to be able to hit the ground running, and we're going to have some early wins.
Good, good. What else is happening in the county? That's pretty exciting stuff in itself.
Well, one of the things that we've been talking about that has recently got some play in the media is
Your name was all over the paper, young man.
Yeah, not always for the good either, but hopefully most of the time.
You guys are used to it, though.
Yeah, well,
Comes
some of the
job.
discussions we've been having, it actually really came out of the discussion with the transit center in downtown Port Huron. A lot of you have read about that. We were looking at possible sites where to put that in the Port Huron area. And one of the areas that we had looked at and put on the table was the Art Van building, the old Art Van building that's located around across from the county building. Right. With the idea, if we're able to put something down in that area and increase the amount of the parking available, it really gives the county the opportunity to, I always talk about, shrink the footprint of the county government. What I mean by the shrink the footprint, if you go to that waterfront area in Port Huron,
right.
And I really think after you saw some of the buildings come down, the old YMCA, the old jail, and you start seeing the waterfront and some of the other opportunities there.
Beautiful.
How do you tie that into a bigger picture? Okay. I don't know. Can we pull up the?
Matt, if you'll throw that scan up. Thank you, sir.
Okay. This is in 2010. This is an aerial, and I've got my little pointer thing here. But if you look where I'm got the mouse.
Yep.
That is the old YMCA property there.
Okay.
That is the old Chase Bank building. That's
still an existing building.
That's still an existing building, and it is one of the only 2 tax-paying buildings in that area. And you've often heard, lived in this area my whole life, and
right.
you look at all these nice buildings and they're all in the water and none of them pay taxes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the old jail site. You see that that's gone. Now, the Art Van building, which you're talking about, this building is the county facility right here. This is the Art Van facility right here. And if you took the Art Van building and you looked at this road, vacating this road here, you're talking roughly an additional 300 parking spots that would be put into play. Well, our courthouse building, which is located in that right here, which is next to the old jail, if we were able to get the additional parking, additional surplus in that area, does that give you the chances of looking at moving perhaps a courthouse? And I say later date, trust me, this is 5, 10, 20 years down the road kind of stuff. We're not sending out invitations to the new groundbreaking for the courthouse anytime soon. There's 200 additional parking spots that are attached to the courthouse. So if you move the courthouse, you need 200 parking spots to go with it. Our current county building has the ability to go to 3 additional floors. When they built that building, it could go to 5 stories.
How old is that building?
That building is probably about 15 years old or so. Yeah. So you could put some additional space there. You could put additional space in these parking lots here. So you could really take going back to my reference of shrink the footprint, you could then take these county buildings and tighten them up and put them in a smaller area. And then really what it gets you to is this is today with the buildings being gone. You see the YMCA site, which is cleared. You see the old jail site, which is now gone, to something that may look something more like this in the future. And I think
that's
really
when you look, shot there.
Yeah, when you look at that, and that is simply the moving of the courthouse facility and vacating some of the roads that are in there, because you necessarily wouldn't need those roads, but it would give you ultimately, and this shows the building gone here, the parking, this shows the road vacated. Now it doesn't show the courthouse building or where it would go, because I don't know. I can't tell you that it would for sure go down in that area. In my mind, it would make sense there again. This decision is going to be made by future boards, and I really think you want to be able to set your people up, so to speak, so boards down the road have those decisions to make those kind of buildings. But when you look at this aerial and you see all that waterfront property open up, how many times in a lifetime do you get the opportunity to redevelop your waterfront?
Right.
Probably one time, and I'm 43 and I may not see it. So, but
there used to be a term called a thought starter, and really that's what you've done. You've started people to think about repurposing that land. And currently it's under taxpayers, there's no tax paying.
Is there a higher and better use? That's what we always talk about. Is there a higher and better use?
Yeah.
And where we're at now is the discussions with Blue Water Transit as far as purchasing the Art Van property and working with them, trying to secure some more funding for that. We are not going to go out and buy that property tomorrow. We've got meetings with Jim Wilson, and many of you know Blue Water Transit has the ability to bring money home, so to speak. But you just need projects, you need to define their scope, and that's really what we're working on at this time, trying to get that piece of property. And the Barrett family, who owns the Art Van, they've been great, local family, been around. They've been in on these discussions. They see the vision, they like it a lot. So they're really working with us at the county level too. We've been in front of our county board to talk about that. I went in front of the city of Port Huron. They liked the plan. Everybody gave me permission to go ahead to discuss this with Jim Wilson, because if City Hall doesn't want it, then it doesn't move through the channels. So that's kind of where we're at in the process on that. The downside is you would take the a taxable entity out of the payrolls. That's the kick in it.
Art Van building.
But that building is roughly $5,000 a year. It pays in city taxes. A piece of it. It pays more than that with a school and everything else. But they felt that that was enough to give up to be able to get that building in inventory to someday hopefully look like that. Just good discussion, good good thinking and the things we as
you got some feedback. There's the talkback type columns in the paper and on the radio that people express their opinions. But I think what you've done here today is try and explain the whole picture, just not a little snippet of what's happening.
I think after you hear the whole big picture, then people generally agree with it. When the headlines in the papers come out and says new courthouse being built tomorrow,
right.
You know, what are you, nuts, Bohm?
Right.
But
well, I've talked to enough people that have had that wonderful opportunity to be jurors, and they talk about some of the issues you brought up today about parking and getting into the court and getting out of the court. So it's something that you guys have to look at, and you don't have to look at it tomorrow, but it certainly is. I salute you for thinking ahead.
Yeah.
Bill, you're sitting between these two guys. What's happening in your department?
Well, I just want to comment on both of these topics and what it is that the board is trying to do and community leaders are trying to do is really create opportunities for private investment. And you look at what Dan explained, we're just kind of setting the table here. We're making some opportunities available for somebody to come into town and say, I want to invest in your community, and that leads to jobs and job creation by the private sector. The same thing that Jeff has mentioned here is once you start taking those buildings down, which we did this summer, and you look at the opportunity out there, all of a sudden it might attract someone's eye, and they might realize, hey, there's an opportunity here in St. Clair County, and I want to get on board right now before somebody else realizes it. Many of the things that the board has been tackling this year have been all about creating those opportunities, just trying to make this place a little more attractive, a little more predictable for the private sector who may want to come in here and make an investment.
You sort of have an example of that in the Thomas Edison plan, with a little encouragement from the county. Right. Some private investors are taking a hard look at it and making some investments.
Yes, and you know, when that project began, Baker College wasn't even on the radar screen. But in sitting around and just some brainstorming that actually these two gentlemen were part of, as well as Dr. Harrison from Baker College, I think the light bulb went off in her head. She saw an opportunity, and certainly the developer of the Thomas Edison saw the opportunity as well. It benefits his project, it benefits the convention center. I think everybody will win from the investment that Baker is going to make. And all that was about was a little encouragement from the county to try and make this project happen, to close the gap, to make it a little bit more marketable for them, and the private sector realized there's an opportunity to make some money.
In case people have not had an opportunity to look at the proposal, it is on your website. I was there today, and they can just go to www.stclaircounty.org, all one word.
Correct.
And right there is the proposal, so they can take a look at it and see what the opportunities are.
A lot of information posted there, a lot of documents, a lot of research documents, and if there's something that someone is interested and wants to know a little bit more about the project, they can certainly contact our office, and we can make some of those additional documents available if it's something that we've already produced.
Any final thoughts?
Well, we seem like we've turned the corner, and we're moving in a positive direction. And I guess you could say the same is true for all of Michigan, and certainly for Metro Detroit. I mean, we still have a ways to go. But last year in 2011, we had a pretty good year in the county in terms of our existing companies expanding, adding jobs, investment. The EDA will be announcing the results of that in February. But I'm, looking at the previous 2 years and what we achieved, I think it's a good indication that we're on the rebound now and there are better things to come.
One of the ones locally was I drove down Putty Gut Road 5 months ago, and there was 5 or 10 cars in a place. I drove by recently, and there's hundreds of cars there, and it's the Continental Plastics to Magna story. Yeah. And what a wonderful story, and what a great success for the county and for the townships.
Yeah, we were really happy that project came together. And a lot of people don't know this, but we went to Toronto a little more than a year ago for the Canadian International Auto Show. And we went there really because of a trade mission that they were having. And there were 9 Canadian companies that were there. One of them was Magna. And fortunately, I have a long history with Magna. I've worked with them before on some projects. So it gave us an opportunity to sell them on St. Clair County. At the time, they were in negotiations to acquire that facility and that company. So I think it gave them some additional encouragement to go forward. And since then, we've just been ecstatic with the work that they've done there, the amount of investment.
Yeah.
They put $8 million into that building, and they're talking about building an expansion to that facility this year.
Isn't that wonderful?
So we're staying on top of it. We're really happy with the work that's been done there, and it's created a lot of jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of additional parking. I just happen to drive by there like 4 times a day because I live over in that area, and it is really amazing what has happened. One other thing I just want to touch base on, I want to give Dan some kudos for this, is we had a investor tour that he put together.
Oh yes, that was great.
And when you talk about investment and people showing up and that type of thing, Dan really went out and got a lot of the big players in the market and brought them to Port Air and actually showed them what we had. And we had
Great boat
pre-meeting
ride
at the Vintage Tavern, and I had the opportunity to talk to one of the major developers and spend some time with them. And if people just don't realize the area sometimes, because if they haven't been there, they don't realize, I think, at how nice it is. And that was this fellow was from the Rochester area, and he just, I can't believe it, how nice it is over here. Those are the types of things you need to do. You need to get these people to town to do it. And Dan did a great job, and I think we had 30 some odd people that showed up for that people that have the cash and wherewithal to make something happen in St. Clair. First of all, that's the important part. So those are the kinds of things we need to continue with.
Any final thoughts, Bill?
A lot going on with the county. We closed our books in 2011. Ended with a small fund balance. Nothing huge.
No emergency managers coming in?
No emergency managers. We're quite healthy.
Good.
A lot of good jobs information. The county depends a lot on property taxes. Nobody wants to hear about increasing property taxes. There's no plans to increase property taxes. But we're holding our own financially. We're in good shape.
Great. Mr. Casey, thank you. We'll have you back,
Paul.
sir. Mr. Kauffman,
Paul,
nice
thanks
seeing
for
you.
having us.
Paul,
Jeff,
thanks
nice
for having
seeing
us.
you, brother. That's about it for this edition of the Roundtable. We thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Paul Dingeman.